Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 6 of the best aquarium fish that you can get for your aquarium to help clean up any leftover fish food. So all 6 of these aquarium fish are particularly great for community aquariums, and they're great to add into your cleanup crew in that aquarium. And the reason for that is because what most of these guys will do is they'll wait for the rest of your fish to actually finish feeding, and then they'll go around and pick up any leftover food that's left on the substrate or maybe in plants and things in your aquarium. And there's a wide variety of benefits that come with this, but for the most part, the reason I like using fish like this is because it prevents any ammonia spikes from all that decaying organic matter, and it just prevents any sort of fluctuations in the nitrogen cycle in general. But yeah, with that said, I guess without any further ado, let's just jump straight into today's video with the first fish on our list. So first things first, today we have a super common little catfish species. We have Coridor Catfish. So Coridor Catfish are a super cool little catfish. They're very peaceful, they don't get too big, and they can go in a variety of different tank styles and setups. In particular, they like tanks with soft substrate, so things like sand or super fine gravel. And the reason for that is because you don't want to be keeping them with more coarse gravel, just because that can damage their barbels, which, if you don't know what those are, they're basically like their little whiskers. So keeping them on soft substrate is definitely best. And like I said, they also love being in a planted aquarium, so they will do fine in a non-planted aquarium. However, I do find that my Corys in particular love going and hiding in plants and just foraging around through the leaves, I guess. So yeah, I definitely think it's great to keep them in a planted aquarium. On top of that, like I said, they're very peaceful, so they can go with a wide variety of tank mates, from things like super small rasboras all the way up to angelfish and other dwarf cichlids. So as for water parameters for these guys, you're going to want a temperature about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to want a pH of about 6 to 7.5. As for the reason these guys are on the list today, they actually do go around and they'll pick up any of that leftover food on the bottom of your aquarium. They'll also just help disturb it as well, so even if they're not eating it, they're kicking it up into the water column, and that makes it more accessible for other fish. But it also means that your filter has a much easier time sucking it up, and then the beneficial bacteria in your filter can break it down, so you're not getting any fluctuations in ammonia or nitrogen. But yeah, with that said, Coridor catfish are definitely one of the best aquarium fish that you can get to help clean up excess food. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super cool little fish. We have Coly Loaches. So Coly Loaches are like a little eel looking thing. They're very weird, but they're also a very great fish to help keep your aquarium clean. So these guys are super similar to the Coridor catfish, if not like the same sort of fish, they just look different. So again, these guys prefer to be in a soft substrate aquarium. Not only will they actually dig around in the substrate, but again, they do have very small barbels which can be injured on that more coarse gravel. They're not as sensitive to that sort of stuff as the Coridor catfish are, but they definitely do need sand because, like I said, they do like to dig around in it. So they actually don't really come out much during the day, and they do need plants or like caves and things like that to hide away in, just because they are mainly nocturnal. You will see them every now and then in the day, but if you come out at nighttime, that's probably the best time to see them in your aquarium, and that's when they'll actually go ahead and eat any of that leftover food that your other fish don't eat. And very similar to the Coridor catfish, they'll also help kick it up, which can make it easier for other fish to eat, and they'll help also kick up any of that other detritus as well. These guys are another super peaceful fish, so they can be kept with pretty much anything the Coridor catfish can be kept with. You just don't want to be keeping these guys with things that are too big, just because they're a perfect little snack for anything that can fit their mouth around them. So as for water parameters for these guys, you're going to want a temperature of about 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, which is about 75 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're also going to want a pH of about 6 to 7.5. But yeah, with that being said, Coly Loaches are another super great fish to help clean up any of that excess fish food. Moving on to the next little thing on our list. You can't really call this a fish, I guess, but I did sneak it on this list. We have aquarium snails. So in my opinion, aquarium snails are actually super vital to have in your aquarium. They are really good at eating algae. They'll also obviously kick up any detritus in your aquarium, and they'll eat any of the leftover food your fish don't eat. And even if your fish die, they can actually help clean up like the carcass of your fish as well, which basically means they are really good at making sure there's no ammonia spikes or no massive fluctuations in your nitrogen cycle. Now, in particular, I really love Malaysian trumpet snails, and the main reason I love them so much is because you literally never see them. During the day or when your light's on, they'll actually be buried in the substrate, so you do need a soft substrate for these guys. But when it comes to nighttime and your lights are off, they'll literally be thousands all over your aquarium. I have like a tank over here. There's literally, I don't know how many there is, but there's a lot. And I only ever see them at night. You barely ever see them at day. But these guys actually do have a lot of benefits in addition to eating any of the leftover food. They'll actually help turn over your substrate, which can kick out any detritus or muck that gets stuck in there. And they'll also make sure no toxic gas bubbles build up in there, just because if those build up for a long time and then they're released, they can actually kill your fish. So they're really good at making sure your substrate's aerated and nice and clean, and they'll also eat any of your aquarium fish food as well. As for water parameters for these guys, they can literally go in just about any temperature and pH, although I'd say about 18 to 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and a pH of anywhere between 6 to 7.5. So these are literally the easiest thing you can keep in your fish tank besides like plants. In fact, I'd actually probably say that aquarium snails are easier than plants. And if you can kill an aquarium snail, then I'd actually be very surprised, because I've tried and they're very hard to kill. But yeah, with that being said, aquarium snails are another great little addition to help clean up any of that excess fish food. Moving on to the next species of fish on our list, we have another super common one. We have bristlenose catfish. So these guys are another super easy fish to care for. They are super peaceful as well, so they can literally go with anything from cherry shrimp all the way up to African cichlids. There's pretty much nothing in the aquarium hobby can kill these guys besides like an Oscar. But they are obviously an armored catfish, which does make them super hard for anything to nip at or hurt, I guess. So not only are these guys tremendous at eating any of the surface algae in your aquarium, but they will also eat any flake foods or pellets that actually don't get eaten. You do definitely want to have plants in the aquarium with these guys, just because they can actually produce a lot of waste, and those plants will help break down a lot of that waste and make sure that your aquarium doesn't turn cloudy and all sorts of ammonia spikes occur. So as for water parameters for these guys, you're going to want a temperature of about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to want a pH anywhere between 6.5 to 7.5. But yeah, with that being said, bristlenose catfish are another super great little aquarium fish for eating any of your excess fish food. Moving on to the next fish on our list. This one again isn't actually a fish, but I've sneakily slipped it in. We have cherry shrimp. So cherry shrimp are another thing that I think is almost vital to have in a community aquarium, or just shrimp in general, I guess. They're a super great addition into any cleanup crew, just because they are super great at eating any leftover food. They're also great at eating algae, and they sort of just stay out of the way from all your other fish, as long as you don't keep them with fish that are too big. So I'd probably say things like dwarf cichlids and other things like that are a little bit too big, but you can definitely keep them with things like obviously your bristlenose. You may be able to get away with pygmy cories, but all your tetras, rasboras, and things like that are great tank mates for them. So these guys, it's pretty much vital to keep them in a planted aquarium. I wouldn't keep them in a bare tank, and the reason for that is because they would get very stressed in a tank that's too bare, particularly if there's a lot of other different fish in there as well. So I'd recommend keeping them with either a big ball of moss or something like that, or just in a heavily planted aquarium, and that's just going to mean they can go away and hide if they need to. It'll also promote all sorts of breeding as well. As for water parameters for these guys, you want a temperature of about 18 to 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and a pH of about 6.5 to 7.5. So these guys are actually super easy to care for. I know when I first got them, I didn't think they were going to be easy at all. I thought they'd be pretty challenging, but they actually have turned out to be super easy. I barely do anything for them. I basically just throw food in there and watch them, and yeah, they thrive, I guess. But yeah, with that being said, cherry shrimp are another great little aquarium fish for eating any of the leftover fish food. Moving on to the final fish on our list, we actually have a live bearer. We have swordtails. So I guess swordtails, mollies, and platies could all sort of be squashed into this one, but the reason I put them on this list for today is because they literally never get full, and they'll basically all the time eat every little bit of food you throw in there. So if you keep them in a community aquarium and you notice that some food sinks down to the bottom, within half an hour, those guys will have cleaned it all up. They literally always are looking for food, so they're always going to be nipping at the substrate or plants, just trying to get any little bit of fish food they can. And yeah, like I said, it's pretty much impossible for these guys to be full. They like have an endless stomach or something. So these guys are another great one for beginners. They're probably one of the greatest beginner fish just because they don't require any crazy water parameters. They also are very easy to feed and they just look pretty cool as well. You can get so many different colors and different fin shapes. But as for the water parameters for these guys, again, you're going to want a temperature of about 18 to 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and a temperature anywhere between 6.5 to 8. Although I would recommend having the higher pHs just because they are a live bearer, and a lot of live bearers do prefer higher pHs, so about 7.5 to 8 would be optimal for them. It's also pretty important you keep these guys with a lot of plants in their aquarium, so because they're going to be eating a lot, they do produce a lot of waste, and the plants help to minimize the effect of that waste on the tank itself. But also they are live bearers, so they do give birth to little live young, and those live young can seek refuge in the aquarium plants. But yeah, with that being said, swordtails are another super great aquarium fish for eating any of that leftover aquarium fish food. So that is actually going to bring us to the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope this video helps a few of you guys out. If you did enjoy today's video and you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down and subscribe, and while you're down there, smash the like button and comment your thoughts on today's video. I always love going down there and reading them all, and I try to reply back to as many comments as I can. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to go check out my website, aussiefishkeeping.com. I've got all sorts of rare guppies on there. I've got botanicals, other aquarium products. But yeah, I guess with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in that next video.